Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru,
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I'm in Fresno, Selma, near Fresno. We're with Bhai Sukhbir Singh, who's from here, and he's going to show us how to look after our kirpans, sharpen them, clean them, and all the things with your usual kirpan that you get, i.e. the Thali kirpan, like so. And we will learn that from. Thank you so much to him, Baji, for showing us. So watch and learn. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you for having me. So the first example of the Taksali kirpan we have here is just bad maintenance. You know, people that are wearing it, they don't clean it, or they don't oil it frequently. Here you can see it's just red rust. It's probably just surface rust. It's not black rust that's been on there for a while. And then another problem I generally see with the bigger, like 6 to 9 inch Taksali kirpan is that they're not sharp. The edge is plenty thick. So basically this one I'm gonna have to grind down on the belt grinder first. And this machine right here, it's been purchased by the Fresno 6 Sangat. Everyone pitched in, and then we bought this machine, and I've taken it to Yuba City Nagar Kirtan and plenty of other events, samagams and everything, just to provide a sharpening for a kirpan that you wear on the daily. What's the purpose of carrying a tool if it cannot be used? God forbid if the occasion arises. So I'll be fixing this right now. So now that I'm here, I have to see by eye. It's just an experience thing. You can tell exactly how much you need to take off. Oh, children. You have to watch out. The reason I don't recommend anyone uses power tools while sharpening on their first try is a properly manufactured blade has what's called a heat treatment done to it. That's where the metal has been heated to a specific degree and then cooled down, and that cycle repeated a couple times in a specific manner, so the edge will retain. It will retain its sharpness. It won't go dull. When people use power tools without any heat control, like water cooling, what they're doing is they're taking the temper away. They're either going to make the steel along the edge or throughout super brittle or super soft. It's going to lose its temper. So therefore, I recommend hand sharpening with a whetstone for beginners. So usually I would have a water cup here. Unfortunately, I don't. So after every pass on the grinder, I'm dunking it in cool water to keep the temperature low. Because if I were to make that mistake by pushing on it too hard, the steel would get red hot and either become super brittle or become buttery soft. So I'm just examining the angle after every pass, and then I prefer to dunk it after every pass or two. And at this point, I feel confident enough in my abilities to just sharpen this with this belt and progress to a finer one. Or I can use this machine with all the provided guides and everything for precision sharpening. Okay, this belt is a 60 grit ceramic. And the reason I bring up the grits is if you've done woodworking or anything before, you work up progressively from say a 36, 60, 120, 220, 400, 600 to 1,000 into the couple thousand. And I mean, that's metal, so you get into the mirror polishes, buffing and all that. But this is the reason why I was referencing. If you have something like this, you could take a piece of steel wool or sanding sponge, which you can get about 60 to 120 grit, and just go lengthwise. It'll give it a satin finish as well, and it'll get rid of the rust uniformly. If this kirpan that's been polished by a petroleum-based product or oil like WD-40, and you're gonna use it for food purposes after like degnu poglawana. I would recommend washing it properly with like a soap, just because you don't want petroleum in your body or transferring. So that's why some people like to use like coconut oil or some like food grade oil to just coat their Shastar. Like even olive oil works. Now I'm just running my finger along the edge just to see how thin the edge has gotten with this belt, and I'm gonna change up to a progressive grit. This is a J-Flex 220 grit. Running my finger after every pass just to see like where it's gotten. So as you can see, I hope it focuses. Focus. These marks right here, these fine marks on the edge, that's a proper edge right there. And I would say this is at about a 30 degree, if you were to break it down and measure it, a 30-degree edge. And the finish is done with a 220 grit belt. I'm almost there. I can feel the burrs pick up here and there. So probably just a couple more passes, and then I'll jump to that machine. I'll show you the difference. This is a belt sander, technically a belt grinder that's running 1-inch by 42-inch belts. And this is the belt I used before, which is a 60 grit. And then I have an even more abrasive one, which is a 36. And then the finest I have at the moment is a 400. This one can pretty much, it's so worn out at this point, with a little bit of pressure, you could probably put a mirror finish on something. So for cleaning off rust like this, I would recommend maybe like 100 grit sandpaper, the metal kind. This is the wood kind, and in a pinch it would work, but I prefer that people use the metal one just because it lasts longer, and then it doesn't deteriorate as fast. It's like annoying when you're in the middle of like halfway cleaning one and your sandpaper gives out. Another item I recommend is a sanding sponge. The reason I like these is because with a sandpaper, it's just paper. The thing that's putting pressure is you. So if you've been doing this for a minute, it's only gonna make your joints and your muscles hurt, I guess. But with this, you can put pressure into it, and the sponge is pushing down. So it's getting more contact area, and it's more even, if that makes sense. So you would just go like this repeatedly, lengthwise, and you can already see what kind of a difference it's making. Real quick, this is a locally developed product called J-Morse 191S. It's like WD-40, but it's synthetic, so it's non-petroleum based. And then the reason I like this is it's like food safe and stuff. So like you don't have to like worry that much about ingesting petroleum particles and like other stuff getting caught on food grade equipment. Now that oil just makes like a sort of slurry on there, which makes it even more easier to clean and carries away some of the rust. Compare this side to the original side. A lot of a difference, right? And then I'm gonna just carry this on. Yeah, just another benefits, you know, of synthetic stuff is it's non-toxic, you know, biodegradable, all that. Plus, this one doesn't smell. Like if you ever had WD-40 sprayed on yourself or on your clothes, you just smell nasty and oily all day. This one doesn't. It comes off with soap, you know, if you rub hard enough, I guess. I don't have paper out there. But you can already see the difference. From the red rust is gone. The black stuff is either like just grease trapped in pits, or that's like black oxide, which forms under rust. All right, let's see. I'll put a edge on this one real quick. This one had a relatively thin edge on it, and then it just took a quick touch on the 220 belt, and then you can see the edge that I just put on there right now. I don't know if it focuses. Yeah, the shiny, the very thin shiny edge. Compare that to the one I had to put on this one. See the difference in the edge? And it all comes down to how thick it is. All right. We'll see a cut test done on this real quick. That's pretty sharp. Cardboard is a good way to test with a couple cuts, because it's pretty abrasive, and then if it can take a couple cuts and it's still cutting, you've put like a good edge on it basically. Now I'm switching over to the water-cooled machine. This is the Tormek T7. It was bought as a community effort of the Fresno Six Sangha, and basically with this I've been able to go to various smagams, like smagams, and then Nagar Kirtans like Yuba City, Fresno, and just provide a free kirpan sharpening service for the community. So what this does here is instead of a belt, it's a stone, and then there's water running over it to control the heat, so it won't lose its temper. I already put an edge on it with the belt grinder, but now I'm gonna put a more fine edge on it with the stone, and then strop it with the leather honing wheel. Now it's picking up. Since this is water cooled, I can put like a lot of pressure on it and get an even finish. Where with that one, I would have to cool it after every pass in order to not mess up the temper. Feel this for me. Do you just rub your no, never long ways across. You feel your skin pick up, right? Yeah. Plenty sharp, right? So now what this side does, it's fairly safe. Low RPM, high torque. I can run my hand across this, no danger. But all right, so what this side does is it gives it a grind, and right now I can feel like a toothy edge on it, like little jagged tooths. And I'm grinding this way, so it's going into the blade. This side is called a stropping wheel. It's a leather belt wrapped around, and then it has like a diamond buffing compound in it. So this side, I would hold it like this, but this side, it buffs against the edge. What the diamond abrasives basically do is they sort of polish the toothy edge into like one fine line. And then I'll just show you the difference. I won't be able to take a straight cut just because it's a bent cardboard. I wish I had like a square, flat piece of cardboard. But I can do a poke and slice. Relative ease with which it just cuts through. Now the cardboard's all torn up. Give me a second. There we go. Grabbing, but you can still feel the edge on it after. And then now some people like to do the strop, some people don't. With a smoother edge, it'll do long push cuts better, but if you leave it with a toothy, it's better for going through fiber, or if it comes down to it, flesh. So these are just the basic maintenance and sharpening techniques. I hope these helped you. Well, I recommend everyone take some money out of their budget and buy one of these sharpening stones. The reason I say so is because a very simple tool that's very helpful. All you need is a stone, and then maybe run some water over it after every pass. And this grip-on's already sharpened, so I'm not gonna press on it. But what you would do is you would find the ideal angle and keep at it and removing metal. And then it's slow and tedious, but you'll appreciate your grip-on that much more, knowing that you spent time and effort sharpening it, maintaining it. So, just two-sided, use the coarse side first, and then use the fine side after to give it a more finer edge.
So would you go across the blade?
There's a couple different techniques. I prefer even strokes, forward, lift, and forward, lift, and forward. Some people just like to keep a constant angle and go front back contacting all the way. I personally don't like that. And then there's another issue where some people say they only use oil with this, like WD-40. Some people say they only use water with it. It's a personal preference.
You don't go like along the grain, you go against the blade?
Oh yeah, so when you're sharpening, the most efficient and the most effective way in which you can see what's being, because sharpening is essentially removing metal, and you want to control that as much as possible. So when you're pushing against it, you can see exactly what's being cut off. When you're going like this, you can't really tell. So even if you were sharpening facing you, you're cutting forward with it basically, and that's how you want to sharpen. With a stone or a belt or anything, it's the more controlled way, I would say. All right, so I have this question that a lot of people ask me: what is sarbilo? And this is my answer to that from a technical standpoint. I personally hate it when people say sarbilo is pure iron, because metallurgically speaking, pure iron would be softer than like aluminum, and pure iron can only be made in a lab or synthesized in a lab, because it would oxidize. When people say sarbilo, it refers to a high carbon steel usually, because they didn't have stainless steels back in the day, and a steel is just iron with various minerals and elements in it, alloyed in it, like carbon, that makes steel. And back in the day, most of it was either high carbon steel or some sort of pattern welding or woots, crucible steels. There's one method which is, this is tedious, but there's a lazier method that you can get. It's those, it looks like a handle almost, you hold on to, and it's called a pull-through knife sharpener. I personally don't like those because if you've seen the geometry on a kirpan from the spine, it tapers. And that really does not translate well with that, because the angle of the edge is not consistent. It varies from like this, from the base to like super thin on the tip. So when you're doing a pull-through knife sharpening, it's not keeping the same consistent angle all the way through, and it puts a really bad edge on it. It's they've done like like zoomed in micro studies. Those are the worst type of sharpeners. Best thing you can do is just practice a lot with a stone. It stays consistent. It's usually flat, and then you just have to get the angle down and the motion repeatedly. So back to the topic of sarbilo, how some people, consider, oh, you can't be stainless steel, it's only sarbilo. I'd hate to bring this up, but it's kind of like saying you should only ride a horse to the Gurdwara, you can't take your car there, like, I'm pretty sure Guru Gobind Singh Ji would want us to be in today's age with everything, like how we take modern transportation instead of horses. So I think we should be taking today's standard steels and carrying them as our kirpans. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of makers, that would make something like a Taksali kirpan in a modern steel, which is something I'm hoping to develop in the future. The concept is that I'm gonna call it is a re-blade. So basically, I would replicate this in high quality steel. So I would take this out, take the old one out, the sarbilo one, dull it down to make it a trainer, take the new one with the more advanced, modern steel of today. That one would be the drop-in blade, the re-blade that you can carry with today's modern steels. And then, but that's an option for the future. For those of you that are looking for something right now, a company I would recommend is Cold Steel, especially their series called, I do believe it's called The Spike. It's a very slim kirpan, and it's in a kydex sheath. How some people have allergies to the outside of this, depending on the polishing compound they use, if there's a high nickel content, or maybe even just like the chemicals they use on the wood. Some people develop rashes from carrying it on the inside. The reason I like that is because they use kydex. Kydex is a thermoplastic, which means just a piece of plastic that you can mold with heat. And it's fairly inert, it doesn't grow mold or nothing. It doesn't, irritate you. So I would check that out. So thank you for watching along. I'm sorry this video sounded kind of corny, last minute deal, but I really want to thank you to Jagraj Singh for, organizing this all. It's very last minute. Thank you once again for watching. And if there's any members of the Sangat, the global Sangat, that are interested in this, that they want to get their own division started, they want to look at some rough costs, or they need training on stuff like this, or even if you have some simple questions on maintenance, sharpening, shoot me a line at this email. So this right here was a community buy with the tooling and everything, and a couple extra spare parts. This came out to a little over $1,000, but it's well worth its cost because it's a precision sharpening. You can calculate the angle and everything with the guide, which I don't have on me. I feel confident enough doing it freehand. And then this right here is a belt sander. I would recommend actually this over this if you're on a low budget, because this is more. This has a lesser. Well, no. Okay, this has a higher learning curve on it, but this one is everything's calculated. You can just take the guide and just set it up and just sharpen like that. This machine right here, I think it'll run you like $200. I got this off a friend of mine, Charlie Mike. He makes knives as well, but it just runs belts. Belts are not that expensive, a couple bucks a belt, and it's a good save out to do. You don't see a lot of people doing this, so therefore I would like to ask if there's any sangat in California, Nevada, Washington, Oregon area. I can travel that far on my own. If they have an event or a samagam, drop me a line at the email, and then I'll try my best to make it out there to provide this free sharpening seva. I've done it before at Yuba City and a couple of Nagar Kirtans. So thank you once again for watching. Veerji ka khalsa, Veerji ki fateh.
Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru.